Okay, this is a really nice question and thank you for asking that. So when it comes to my own mindset for the search engine optimization, most of the time actually I look things as engineers and the scientists look. Because the purpose of a search engine and the search engine engineer is mainly actually getting the user's point and their psychology and their query sequences. For instance, an engineer can use metrics and certain types of scores like query per second, or let's say the mouse movements per second, or whether the user clicks somewhere or don't click somewhere. And based on these query sequences to understand why they are searching that, and after that query, why the other query actually comes. Even there are some researchers to understand whether the users are Markovian or not, and let me explain that concept really simple way. They try to predict your 7th query or 7th search session to understand when it will be happening and what it will be about. So in this case, I can tell that we are actually semantic creatures, which means that we have certain type of patterns. So even if I tell that SEO is mostly about algorithms, at the end of the day, these algorithms are for catching the patterns of the human behavior. So that's why actually there's a Markovian chain that always repeats the patterns of the users. And based on that, I most of the time consider SEO as a math and a science, and I approach it like it is an engineering topic. But at the same time, all of these algorithms are designed for getting the human motivation for searching, clicking, or performing certain types of actions. So that's why, in my point of view, it's for the algorithms, but algorithms are for the users. So indirectly, it is for the users, but from a direct point of view, it's for the algorithms. So there are 3 extra factors that actually help me in my career beyond SEO. One of them is that actually I am really, let's say, deep in the books. For instance, I love reading and I have read lots of things about the linguistics, philosophy, and all of the actually Greek philosophers. I love all of them. And since I had this habit of reading all these books, it was easier for me when it comes to SEO reading as well, because I can continue to read boring patterns and research papers from 20 years ago. And just yesterday, actually, someone from this conference gifted me a book from 1950s because he knows that I will be reading it, and it's the first introduction to the information retrieval and information sciences. And when you look at all these researches, since the Cold War to today, information retrieval actually doesn't change the principles or the fundamentals that much. And that's why I can tell that my first advantage in this field is actually ability to read boring things or finding them entertaining for myself. So the second thing is that most of the time I believe in the official search engine result pages rather than the official search engine announcements, because I am also in a little bit the politics or the political science, and I'm also graduated from that area too. And based on that, for instance, there is a term in politics. It is called Kremlinology. So Kremlin is a palace basically in Russia, and it's a concept that comes from actually during the Cold War, because they know that Kremlin says something but does something else. So they try to get the difference between what Kremlin tells and what Kremlin does. And it's nearly same today too. They tell that they are peaceful, but they are doing something else. So in a way, commercial search engines, they do the same thing. They have lots of social engineering announcements that don't have any kinds of real weight. And when you know the political science, you are able to get actually when they are serious, honest, and when they are not. So I'm able to get the difference between what Google tells and what Google does. And it actually helps me as well. The third advantage is that the communication. And I can tell that I'm coming from Istanbul, and in Istanbul, in the back streets, you have to but you have to be friends with lots of different type of people from different backgrounds, because it's a city that everyone comes from northern side of the country, eastern side of the country, or western side of the country. I have learned let's say 5 different type of Turkish dialects in just Istanbul, and based on that, you are able to get friends so easily. And if you know what's the real motivation of a human being, you will be able to motivate the teammates of your clients, and you will be able to motivate your investors. Or for instance, when I was a regular teammate in a company, I was going to the CEO and I was telling that, look, there is a meeting like 6 months later, and this is the number that you have to hit, but it won't be happening if you continue like that. So I am actually a regular person in the company, but I was able to convince the CEO directly to get more, let's say, responsibility inside the company. And most of these things are happening thanks to communication skills, and I can tell that these are the 3 main advantages.